Hello everybody, Dave Shopius here. Welcome to my robot lab. I'm coming down the home stretch now of the retrofit of the torso area of this B9 that I've taken on from a friend up in New Hampshire. He sent it down to me here in Florida, and pretty much it was in pieces when I got here. Check out some of my other videos on YouTube to see what it was like when it arrived and what I've done since then. So it's coming along good. I'm doing this in phases. Not today's phase, but this last phase has been the torso area, getting it all wired up, the lights, mounting the power pack, getting electricity up into it, electronics working. Again, check out some of my other videos on those things. Today what I'm going to do is start working on the vents down here. They're the parts that cover these holes. They're actual acrylic vents, and when I got this thing, they were just sitting on the side. Unpacked them, and they were not looking too bad, but the closer I looked, the more I realized I had to do something to them. They were, and here they are. There's 3 of them. I have another one for the front that I don't have to do nothing to. But basically, these were built already to be set in there and just stuck in there with Velcro. I'm going to make them so that they slide back and forth, kind of like a sliding door. So you can just push it open and reach in and do your maintenance and pull your hand out, slide it back. That is a pretty cool way of doing it. Well, like I said, when I got these, they were put together. When I say that, I mean it has mesh that goes over each one. Sits on there, and then a piece of screen would sit on here like this and cover it up, so it looks pretty cool, actually. The problem was that for Velcro, just sticking it out there just fine. I got these rails from Craig Reinbrecht, and these are made specifically so it'll slide open and close. Craig does a great job on this. And see how it slides back and forth? You have to mount these in the torso and a proper way so you can slide this in, and it glides really nice. And I think if you'll see the way they were put together before, this was way too big and would interfere with the tracks. So again, I took it all apart. Got to clean it all up, get some of that goop, all that hot glue off of there, trim it up a little bit so it fits down in there. I'm short a piece of screen. I only have 2 that came with it, so I might have to get enough to cut all 3 so they all match. So just to give you an idea, this will have to sit down in here like this, and the top piece will go up under here, and that vent will slide open and closed. Okay, another thing I have to do is I have to clean these all up because they're kind of foggy and dirty and dusty, and there's also a couple ribs broken that you can see right here, and another one I think over here. Then a couple more in other places. I got to repair those. Then I can start trimming and hot gluing back. And I think when I get done with that process, I'll come back and I'll show you where I'm at and how I mount these. Okay? I'll talk to you later. While I was away, I went ahead and cleaned them up. Boy, they're pretty now. The water turned brown, so they had a lot of crap on them. And I also repaired the ribs. There was 3 ribs were broken. I used this Weld-On 3 for acrylic welding, and I applied it with a little bottle. It's got a syringe on the end of it, and just basically touched it to it and put a drop in the joint, held it together for a minute, and it was welded together, plastic to plastic. I had one joint right here that was actually, the rib looked like it was cut too short, and there was a little gap in the top. And there's no way I could use the weld on, because that stuff, it's strong, but it doesn't bridge gaps like that. So I mixed up a little clear 5-minute epoxy and held it apart and dabbed it in and squeezed it together for a few minutes, and it's holding just fine. Okay, so she's clean, she's repaired. My next thing I'm going to do now is cut my vents down, my mesh covering down, and get it in there. And I will come back when I get that done. It's just nothing to really see. I'm just going to lay it on there, trim it up a little short, and you'll see how and I probably hot glue it to the outsides. Just a little dab around it, just hold it in place. Other guys put a little black thread too. That's really good. Black thread to hold it onto the vents. Hot glue, if it's done nicely with just a little dab here and there, you'll never see it. I think it'll be just fine. You be the judge. I'll be right back. Okay, I got to thinking that maybe hot glue wasn't the way I wanted to go with this. I mentioned that there's other ways to do this. And I think I'm going to attach this mesh to the vent, the acrylic vent, with this tie wire I have, this galvanized steel wire. It's 24 gauge. It should be able to loop through there and come back around and tie it to itself very nicely and be rather invisible from the other side. I'll have it up in the corners and down along the bottom anyway. So what I did also is before I get it all trimmed down, I wanted to make sure that I had it as close to the bend radius as I could. So I set it in there and I kind of bent it according to the curves. Wish I could show you, but I only have one hand. So, and then once I had it in there, positioned to where I wanted it, and you can see the black mark along there. I took a Sharpie and just kind of marked where I want to cut it. The snip will be a little bit better than that. So I'm going to try to get above these, these little weld spots where they cross each other, so there's not just a piece of wire sticking up. So I'm going to probably set this camera up on a tripod and try to catch some of that, okay? I'll be right back and start snipping. Alrighty then, I am back. I'm going to simply start by trimming this up a little bit here. Again, I'm just cutting the side cutters and where I had it marked. I'll go all the way around. This is kind of boring, so what I'll probably do is shut the camera off and turn it back on when I get done. Okay? Be right back. Alright, I turned the camera back on. I've trimmed up the bottom and this side. And pausing as I go just to make sure everything's good. And now, you don't want any really sharp points sticking out, or else your fingers are going to get poked when you go to open up and close the door. But you want to make sure it covers most of the ribs there. And I'm just double checking to make sure my top cut where I marked it is going to be okay. You got to remember that this is going to have to slide on there. So this can be actually below, right at the cut can be right about where that's going to be. And again too, this is going to have to be like this. So my marks are pretty close. And this is why you want to have this thing bent before you start cutting too, so yeah, I'm pretty close on my marks. Maybe this one here, maybe it's a little too low. Yeah, I'm going to remark that, I think. Your bottom's good. I'm just going to make a mark across here. See how that looks. And it's going to be at the top of where I marked it. So I don't have to cut too much off. So I'm going to just kind of trim this up a little bit here. There you can see how nicely that, I think it looks nice. I think it's good. So I get it lined up just right and tie it on there. Yeah, okay. Let me take a piece of this tie wire and I'll put the first one on there. Bring it around to the back. And just twirl it upon itself. Twirl, twirl. I'll get another piece for the other side. Actually, I'm going to do the center now. Bring it down. I've never used this tie wire, so this is a new one for us here. And make sure I get it in the right hole. I don't think I have to get them really tight right now. I think one in the center, two on one each side would be fine. It really is hard to see. So I guess less is more here. Okay, it's coming along good. Alright, I'm going to cut away now to get this centered up, get these tightened down and put some more tie wires down here. And then we'll see what we look like. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back for a minute. I just want to show you guys how I'm tightening these down. It's kind of an art skill that electricians have, mastering how to cinch up wire and stuff. Basically what I'm doing is I just I got to be careful. Remember, this is acrylic, and I got a little pliers, little side cutter pliers. What I just did is I just kind of went in there and squished the side, and then I took the front and I kind of squished it down flat, and then remember I kind of twisted these with my fingers. We want to get it tighter than that, so I wound it up. Hope you can see that. If I was too high, I'm sorry. Again, I got the sides squished. I squished the front a little bit so it's nice and square, and then twisted it up a little bit with my fingers. Cut all the excess off. Maybe leave a little bit so I can grab it with the pliers. And carefully just cinch it down. Again, don't go too tight, because what's going to happen is you're either going to break the acrylic. Make sure you go the right way. I was going backwards. You're going to either break the acrylic or you're going to break the twist tie. So that's really maybe in one more. If you go too tight and break the twist tie, the tie wire, you are going to do it again. So cut it off a little bit, and then just take that edge and push it down. So it's nice and tight enough anyway, and it wraps around there nice and square, and it's hard to see. And if she's pushed down and cut short, you're not going to poke yourself. Alright, I'm going to do, see how that's starting to form in there now? I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom, 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Same exact thing. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back for a quick note here for you guys. If you can see, hope you can see this. I'm putting the screen mesh on the back. We talked about tying it on with the tie wires. And you probably noticed as I was marking it out the cut that it was going to be actually lower than the top rail here. So the reason that is so the rail will slide without catching. But here's something you need to understand or realize. You see the mesh back there? Make sure it goes up far enough so it looks like it's disappearing underneath it. That's very important, or else that's going to be your line of sight. The torso opening is going to be right about where the bottom of that gray is right there. I'm sorry, I don't really have 3 hands here, so it's not going to. The torso opening is not going to extend too far past this gray rail. So just to be safe, make sure that your mesh goes right up to, if not a little bit past. Okay, so the bottom, it's not as important because that'll kind of disappear underneath the arch, and you won't really see that unless you get right up to it. But still, if you cut it properly, you'll have the same thing going on there. That, and again, I don't have a third hand here to show you, but well, here I got one put together here already. You can see how I could have got closer. This one's way up, but it's going to, as she disappears, this is kind of going to be the level it is right there, and you're not going to really see that down there. This one, I guess I got a little messy with the cut, but on the top it disappears when I put the rail on. So from advantage, you're going to be actually looking down like this or straight on, and you're not going to see that way back in there. Just like I said, you really get up to it. So anyway, just thought I'd make that quick observation. Just be aware of those things when you're cutting your mesh, and you won't end up with a little doodad like that, okay? Or your mesh stopping before it gets up to the torso, and that'll really look like hell. So make sure the mesh goes up far enough, okay? I'll be right back after I get done with my last one, and we'll install these things. Be right back. Alright guys, here we go. I've got it done. I've got the mesh attached to the acrylic vents with the tie wire, and it turned out pretty good. I think I've got a nice little bend in there. Remember, I did that before I attached it, and as I was going I bent it a little bit more. I think it came out good. These little tie wires that I'm pointing out, you really can't see them. It's ready now for the piece of screening or whatever you want to use, felt or whatever, to be attached to the back. I like screening because it helps to give you some ventilation in and out of the robot. That's good when you've got hot devices in there running with fans and stuff, or guys in there as a costume. So you can see how that turns out. It really looks pretty neat. So I'm going to, I'm not going to put this on right now because I only have 2. I got to go to the store and get some more screen. And I want all 3 vents to match. So I'm not going to do that. But when I do have it right, I'll just cut it to size. Hit it with a touch of hot glue around there, maybe 3 on top, 3 on the bottom. Squish it down, maybe 1 in the center too. And then it'll look good. That's my next project, is go to the store and get some screen. and then I'll be mounting these rails inside the robot, and we will see how that goes. So you see it works really good. See there? So I'll be right back, and we'll continue. See you later. I've got them all done now and ready to install. I think they turned out pretty good. They're going to fit right in there and look pretty good once they're in there. So a couple of post-construction notes here. I've actually got them sitting inside of the rails just to make sure everything looks good and fits and everything lines up, and it does. Just something I want to do, so it's kind of a beauty shot for you. Again, a couple of notes. What I did here, a couple things I did was the little ties I put on there. I just took a little Sharpie, a little black Sharpie, and just went right over the top of it just to kind of help it to blend in. So you can see as you pull away, it doesn't, they just disappear. So the other one another thing I need to mention is your top rails that slide. Make sure these are clean. They don't have any sticky gummy stuff on them or any hot glue that's kind of bubbled up. That'll make it harder to slide. And also, when I cut my vent, I used the other two. I found this is like no-see-um screen for little no-see-um bugs. Very tight weave. So I just went to Lowe's and picked up another roll. Right there. That's $20 for that thing. So for one little piece. That's okay. Things you sacrifice your robots. So anyway, I just cut it out right along the edge here, just trimmed it right up along the edge, leaving the top rail and the bottom rail show. So again, that's so it'll slip into it and slide real nice. So all right, that's really all I need to say about these. Let's get them installed. I'll shut this down and set up, and we can do it together. Okay, be right back. I'm back, and I'm doing a test fit right now, which is a good idea. You want to make sure that your parts that you've just put together fit into your robot the way they want to and the way you want them to. This robot torso has got some issues with it. It's an old Dewey Howard torso, and they all had an issue, or not all, I'm not sure, but a lot of them had an issue of them leaning forward and a lot of warpage. You can see that this isn't flat. It kind of has a bow in it. You can see this gap right here. It kind of bows up, and I've shimmed it and put gaskets in there, and nothing on the back. It comes down to 0 on the back, so it'll sit level. The only reason I mention this now is because that's going to affect how your rails sit in there. Now, there's different ways of doing this, and different ways of attaching these. Everybody's got their own way. You can glue them in there. You can glue these rails in there. You can get epoxy putty and form it in there and kind of push it in and stick it down on that. You can fill in the whole bottom of the torso so it's nice and flat, and then lay it just directly flat on there. Put screws through it, put angle iron. Little pieces of angle, and glue it to that and screw that down. I'm all for overbuilding, but I'm also for building smart. I got to tell you, on my last robot I built, I did a lot of that. I filled in the bottom. I put epoxy putty. I welded it to that, and it worked out really good. But today we're going to try a different method. Something that you have to make sure of, and the reason I pointed out these issues here is because your bottom rail and your top rail have got to be parallel with each other, so this thing will slide back and forth. And as you can see, that's not going to happen very easily unless I do something, unless I really pay attention. So one of the things you got to look at is make sure that your seam here is nice and flat and it's not curvy. Okay, this one looks pretty good. We don't want any gaps in there. We want this thing sitting cattywampus or whatever. Another issue with this robot is these side panels are all, some are really laid in there hard and open wide, some are tighter. I'm not sure if that's the way it came out of the mold or the guy who worked on this before sanded this down too much, but I could there's ways of fixing that, but I'm not going to do that right now or even talk about it. The one thing I want to make sure is this edge is flat, and my top rail has got a nice flat surface to lay on, and it's not sticking out. And this clears when this thing opens up. It clears because I'm going to make sure it slides this way and not that way. So my slide is going to be that way. Make sure that the ribs don't hit on anything as it opens up. See there? So the other thing you want to do is when you put your rail down is make sure that it has enough travel in the distance that you want it to travel. And this one comes out to right about here. So I don't want too much that way, because what I'm planning on doing is when this slides in and lines up, I'm going to put a little stop back there. So every time the guy closes this, that owns this robot, is going to close, and it'll always be properly in the right spot. So just a little stop back there will do that. And we'll talk about that later. So how am I going to attach this? Well, like I said, I'm going to do it smart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue this in here. Hot glue is, I mean, some guys won't like that, but hot glue is, if you get the right stuff, get the industrial strength stuff, it's good. Let's be honest, this thing only weighs a few ounces, and the only pressure that's going to be put on this is if it, just like that. I don't have it even glued in there, it's just sitting there and it's sliding. So hot glue all the way around the back and up underneath will be fine. And the top rail, believe it or not, I'm going to use Velcro. And what that'll allow me to do is set this down into this bottom rail, and with the top rail in place and maybe just a little bit of give, I can push it up against the back of the torso and it'll stick, and it'll be exactly where it needs to be, full travel. So I did that on my other robot and it turned out pretty good. Now, if people get squeamish about that, or if I have an issue with it, I can always run a bead of hot glue along the top of it, and that'll anchor it in place. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to shut off the camera now that I've got my test fit done, and I will I'll take off the torso and install these, and if I can, I'll cut back and show a little bit of my work. Okay, I'll be right back. As for actually mounting the vents, the location, where to put the rails on the robot, I can see two spots. One is right here on top. See, I've got the rail mounted right on top here. So when it closes, I don't have this in permanently, so that's why it's a little floppy. But anyway, kind of gives it a nice straight edge across here, nice finished look. That would be possible if your torso is nice and cut clean, which you really want anyway. The other way would be set it lower into the robot, down in on the flange down there. So it has a more of a I don't know what you'd call that, a graduated look where it goes into the robot, and that looks cool too. This would be probably more useful if your torso is a bit on an angle, nothing, the inside is really rough like a lot of the old torsos are. I think for my purposes I'm going to probably do it this way, because this is an old torso and it's really uneven. This is a lot more forgiving. Let me give you a quick peek on the inside. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about here. So you can see this is the one right here that's mounted up on the edge of the torso, up on the lip. And it looks good. It does. But like I said, the inside of my torso is all weird and deformed. You can't really see it here. This is the one that I've got mounted. Again, these aren't in permanent yet. Mounted down. You see here's the lip right here where this other one was mounted on. This is mounted down on the actual flange, the flat area of the flange before it starts coming up. You might be able to see the difference there. I've just got these the bottom rails tacked in with hot glue. So I'll show you how to mount this up. And the top edge here, the top rail is plastic, and I've got Velcro on it. That'll help me get everything lined up and push it on. After I take the glue off, the glue strip, the backing, and then I think I'll run a piece of a bead of hot glue on the top. Same way with this one. This one I'm going to take off. I'll pop off. I'm going to move it down onto the flat area, just because I want all three of them looking the same. All right, I'll be back and we'll show you how to, or I'll show you how I will be putting this one on, but then I'll do everything like this. Okay, hope that's clear. I'll be right back. Here is the test fit from the inside. You can see what we're up against in this whole torso. It had blocks in there. I cleaned it up really good. There's my work already put in there. So the idea is to, like I said before, get that bottom rail nice and flat. Get the top rail in there parallel to the bottom rail, and place it so we can have it traveling in the right direction with enough of the rail on the right side. And like I said before, I want to have a stop over here, so when it comes up to the right position, it'll bump that stop and it won't go any farther. So my plan is to take hot glue. Once I get this in, I'll take all this off, the screen and the top rail, and I'll position my bottom rail perfectly first, so it's right on that ledge that I showed you from the outside, and then run hot glue along the bottom here, and that should hold it in place. Okay, if there's any I'm thinking about maybe even lifting it, running the glue and pushing it down into the hot glue, but I'm afraid the glue will cool too fast. So I might do that in a few places to tack it, and then run a final bead and get it up. We'll see. We'll see. That's my first thing. Then I'll drop the screen down in place, take the Velcro off. I've already put the Velcro on it. I took this stuff is good. Don't get the crappy Velcro from Dollar General. This is a good, strong, industrial grade Velcro. You can stick it on the ceiling and hang from it. but it could easily come apart if you wanted to. But we don't want it to. It's going to be in there. When I get ready, I'll drop the screen in there, put this on it, and just lay it up in place. It'll stick. And if I need to, which I'll probably do anyway, I'll probably run some hot glue along the top of it to fill that in, just to anchor it. So, and then I'll know my top and my bottom rails are perfect. So, okay. I'm gonna, since I only have two hands here, I'm gonna cut away and do all that, and then when I get done, I'll show you the final outcome. Okay? Be back in a minute. Alright, just a quick note here before we do any gluing and placing anything in place. I want to make sure our surfaces are clean, get all the dust and the grit off of it. That includes the rails, okay, and the inside of the torso where we're going to be running the hot glue. Again, I got to mention that this hot glue has got to be the industrial grade, the very strong stuff. You can get that at hobby stores and stuff, but it's got to be the strong, good, quality hot glue. And if you're going to be using your my method of the Velcro, it's also got to be good industrial grade quality Velcro. The inside of the torso, all the areas where we're going to be gluing down here, up here, that's all got to be wiped clean, because this old torso, who knows where it's been and what's in there. Use alcohol to do all this cleaning. Okay, it's very good stuff. Alcohol in a rag, get your rag wet with alcohol, wipe it down, and that'll clean it up. That'll make a nice clean surface for you. Okay, okay, we'll be back in a minute. After getting my rails fitted, tested, and properly placed, using my vents in the top piece, I am ready to, I got them tacked in, and they should slide really nice once I get everything all ready to put the top piece in here. So now my next step is I'm going to take just some hot glue and just run a nice bead along the bottom here, along this edge, all the way around on the ones I put in. It's going to be as simple as that. I don't think I'm going to need any more. Like I said before, though, there's other guys that have done this that do it differently. They'll actually put like angles in here and glue it right to here, or run bolts through the back into the angle and down into the foundation of the flange here. That's cool too. I think that's overkill. So basically, this is nice, high quality, industrial strength hot glue, and it's really good. So I'm going to just run a bead across here, hopefully, if it's heated up enough. There we go. Now we're cooking. Just put a new stick in there, so it gets a little bit hard to go sometimes. I'm trying to get it underneath there if there's any gaps. Right there is a hole where the torso bolt will come through to hold it in place. I guess in a case like this, I can put more on. Sometimes less is more, but not. I don't think this time. We want it to be nice and filled in. I can always cut it out, like around that hole there if I need to. Okay, that's that one. this side. This is easy as that. This is what I did for my last robot. It's been holding for 5 years. It really doesn't get any kind of tension out of that. That vent slides really nice if it's attached properly. Okay, I'm out of glue, and that's all I really need to do right now. Alright, I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll put the vent in and put that top rail on. Hey, while I was gone, I was doing some more test fitting, and I found out that when I put this one in on the side here, you probably can't see it too well, but there was a big mound of fiberglass goop right here that I had to take back out and sand down because it was hitting the center of the vent, was hitting it as she opened and closed. It would jam up right there. So now you can see it slides really nice. So since I sanded, and I need to restate this again, your surface has got to be clean. Use rags and alcohol. Alcohol is a really good cleaner, especially for stuff like this. It gets rid of all sorts of grime and grease and stuff. Don't be afraid of using a bunch. Get it wet. Get all that stuff out of there. Get the dust off of it. Evaporates really fast too. When you guys are sanding on this fiberglass, I said it before and I'll say it again, wear a mask. Wear a respirator mask. Those little fine particles will kill you. Maybe not now, but in 15, 20 years, you're going to be down and won't be able to breathe. It gets in your lungs and just scar tissue starts building up. So anyway, that's serious shit. Alright, that's all you need. Just get all that stuff off of there and you can kind of see how nice and clean and smooth that is right now. What I'm going to do next is I will be putting this one on next. You can see it opens up this way because the rail is that way. You want to at least get this top rail into that position there. So when I said, test it again, test, test, test. And what I'm going to do now is take this off. You can see I've already put a piece of Velcro on there. Take the Velcro strip off of there. The protective, keeping the sticky stuff neat. Just drop this. It's already sticking to my fingers. Just drop that right down on top of there. I want to get this vent into the right position, and I don't want to push it on there. Just lay it down on top of it, or I'm going to make sure it's sitting nice, and I'm just going to push it into place straight. See there? Now, the Velcro's on there just to get it aligned, okay? I like that. I'll be putting the stop right here, so wherever it's supposed to stop, centered, and that way. But now I know that it slides good. I'm going to center my vent right in the middle there. And then I'm going to run a bead of hot glue along here. And maybe up in the end a little bit, but I don't want to obstruct my channel. So I need to heat up my hot glue gun, and I'll be back and I'll squirt it in there. Alright, my gun is reloaded and hot. So, never had that problem when I was a young man. It's a whole new world now. So anyway, what we're going to do now, like I said, is just run a bead of hot glue along here. I got to tell you, there's lots of things you can use. You can put 5-minute epoxy across there. You can put any kind of glue you can think of. You can whatever you'd like. I like the hot glue because I've said it. This is good, strong stuff. It's come a long way since the early days, and it's removable and a little bit flexible too. For something like this, it's perfect. All right, let's see if I'm doing okay here. Oh yeah, we're squirting good. If it runs through and runs out the other side, you can always cut it off. I don't think I need more than that, but I'm going to give it to it anyway. Okay, there's many ways of doing this whole project. If you need to relook at anything, go back, watch it. I challenge you to find a better way, because there's always a better way. This is my way, and I'm sure other people have better ways of doing it, but I found this to be the easiest for me. It has got good results. I'll be back and we'll give you a beauty shot, okay? Well, I've got my vents mounted now. Everything's in place. They seem to be working pretty good. Sliding very well. Everything looks good from the inside. I mounted a little stop, just glued it on there. Just a little piece of metal that I have, sorry about the shadows. Just a little piece of metal that I bent and stuck on there and hot glued down. I'm pretty happy with it. There's the third one right there. Let's pull out and turn off my light, and I will show you what it looks like from the outside. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, the way it looks. There you go. Again, it opens up nicely. All three work the same way. Twirl this around, so try not to drop it. Same way, just looks good. I'm happy with it. I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me and being interested in this video. I hope you learned something. I know I did. If you guys got better ways of doing things, go for it, man. That's what this is all about. Share with me your tips, your thoughts, your ideas. And we will see you next time. Happy building. Bye-bye.